This figure, specifically the version from the first half of the Clone Wars, is one that I personally want LEGO to remake more than any other. Mainly because this was how he looked the last time we got him, and the last time we got him was also the only time that we got him. Technically he came in 5 sets, but the figure itself was unchanged all throughout. And looking at it, it's pretty awful. All around actually. I hate it. It's so bad that I can't even just make small adjustments and changes to fix it like I could with the Captain Rex figure. It's just straight up unsalvageable. So in this video I'm going to fully recreate the figure in the way that I think LEGO would, from scratch, and give some reasoning for each change. So for obvious reasons, let's start with the face print. The Clone Wars style face print is something that you really either tolerate or hate, and I'm personally in the second camp and find them incredibly off-putting. So I changed it to pretty much match the Jewel and Mustafar face print, but with a different expression. This print is based on the character, not necessarily the Clone Wars stylization of the character, so giving him the more jagged beard instead of the boxy looking one from the show felt like the right call. I also borrowed the hairpiece from the same set. It's not necessarily the most accurate hairpiece for the character, but at this point it's the one that I associate with him the most, and I didn't want to stray too far away from that because I think for most people, myself included, their first response would be worse if it's completely different to what we know, and I wanted to avoid that as much as possible, so I just stuck with what's familiar. The next section I changed was the torso, which was probably the only half-decent part of the original version, mainly because it was one of the only parts that actually has a print. There wasn't actually an awful lot to change here. I used the 2019 Anakin figure as a reference for the clone armor around the top of the torso. I made the inside lines of it a lighter grey colour because I think that looks better than just black outlines. I copied the belt from the Jewel and Mustafar set as well, with the only change being the pouch thing on the left, which I got from the newer Phase 1 Clone Trooper belt. I've given up trying to line these waist prints up perfectly, so I just continued the print down into the legs just by eyeballing it. In classic fashion, technology once again failed me, so I lost the recording for the leg line work. Unlucky, unlucky. Kenobi just wears clone leg armor in this version, so I just took the knee and leg printing from the 501st Clone Trooper and drew the robes kind of on top of it. The robes, also, are a similar style to the Mace Windu from the UCS gunship set. I made it a little thinner in the middle and had it cover the knees a little further down, which I think is pretty accurate. The other leg was literally just a copy and paste with a horizontal flip, which genuinely almost made me feel lazy compared to the amount of work I had to put into each leg of the Lifeline minifigure, for example. I did end up changing the cloth folds a little later on, but I didn't record that. The torso print also got a few minor adjustments. Now, his arms. I decided not to give him arm printing for a few reasons. One, I'm trying to make this as accurate to what I think LEGO would actually do as possible, and I don't think that they would give him arm printing just by virtue of probability. They didn't give Anakin any arm printing in 2019, and he's a much more prominent character in the Clone Wars than Obi-Wan is. Two, you might be thinking, well, they gave Mace Windu arm printing on his newest figure, why wouldn't they Obi-Wan? Well, I think the only reason they gave Mace arm printing was because those wrist armor sections are the only thing about Mace Windu that distinguishes him from the Clone Wars version. This isn't the same thing as the Obi-Wan here, who doesn't need arm printing to obviously be a different variant than his live action one. If this were his later Clone Wars version, I think they would give him the arm printing for the same reason as Mace, but not for this version. 3. His arms are mostly entirely white anyway, and the detail on them is comparable more to a clone trooper than Mace Windu, I think. Seeing as though they didn't give Hunter his red shoulder pads, I don't think they'd go through the effort of creating and printing an entire arm for the sake of including his Jedi Order insignia, which is really the only major detail you'd miss out on by not printing the arms. This is a shame because this is what it would look like if they were to print it, but I really don't think they'd bother, unfortunately. And that's that, the final version. I'm thinking of going back and looking at a bunch of these older Clone Wars characters and how I think they'd update them, but we'll see. I have more ideas than I have time for this channel, unfortunately, but I'm trying my best. But yeah, thanks for watching. Farewell.